Oh, yeah.
And as we know, when we start on any project, there's always certain hidden expectation on how things will turn out, right? So, yeah, if you have any questions,
Am
please.
I upside down?
Oh, yes, you are upside down.
Oh, okay. Maybe that could be the...
maybe that could be the thing we run if they...
Okay, let's run with it then.
Let's just roll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, please go easy on me.
Okay. So, Darius, would you mind introducing a little bit more on, spend some time to just talk a little bit about yourself. What is the theme park industry about, Because people just go into theme parks, they just enjoy themselves, right? Half the time, people don't really understand, oh man, what's in this thing? Does someone design this right? So how does it all work? You mind sharing with our folks here, what you do and a little bit about how you've been, what kind of stuff you have designed over the years?
All right. So I started my career in theme parks about 7 years ago. So I started out doing some storyboards for Universal Studios. One of the rides that was licensed by DreamWorks. It's called Puss in Boots. I'm not sure if you guys tried it before. It's in Universal Studios Singapore. Mm-hmm. So that was sort of my first step into the theme park industry. But I do still consider myself to be pretty green in this field, because there's a lot of really experienced veterans with decades of experience. And typically a theme park work revolves around picking a site, and usually starts off with master planning. So you have to work with architects on what is the main narrative of the whole site, what are the different circulation routes, different considerations, budgets and stuff. And usually we'll start off with doing a feasibility studies. So you have to study all the have to talk to stakeholders to sort of get a feel of what is their intent, what's the ROI, stuff like that, and what are the perhaps visitorship and stuff that they have in mind. So we have to balance that with attraction designs and stuff, and how we can really utilize the real estate to sort of maximize the returns for our clients. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And then after all the pre-planning, we have to start designing the themes. So there's this confusion when it comes towards a theme park and amusement park, because a lot of people actually don't know the difference, but there is actually some differences. So I mean it's actually in the name. So actually a theme park is there's usually themes, there's usually thematic zones, and usually the budget is a lot higher.
Yes.
Yeah. So whereas amusement park usually there's not so much thought into the whole master planning. Traditionally, amusement park is sort of just iron rides. So they just have the rides with no theming. There's no clear transitions between different areas. So it's sort of just plugging in, just drag and drop all the different iron rides. Mm-hmm. So our job is to visualize, to take all these. We have to work with architects. After they have come out with the facility buildings and all that, we have to work together to see how we can theme the whole space. So it goes from facade design, even costume designs, and even floor pattern designs, and even down to the trash cans. We have to visualize all different stuff. Yeah. And sometimes we have to do storyboarding. We have to work with lighting designers, stuff like that. Yeah.
So it's kind of you're putting someone in an immersive environment to kind of teleport them to another environment, right? So that they can see a different, or rather immerse themselves into a new world, be it a Shrek or Puss in Boots kind of world, or be it in Universal Studios, right? You have the Transformers, I think they call it the futuristic city or something like that, right? So it's a different environment where people can get the, best possible experience that you design for them, right?
Yeah, I think you describe it better than me.
No, I think it's I think you elaborated very well. I think there is a key distinction that you mentioned with theme parks and amusement parks, and I think prior to researching on this, I didn't know the difference. As a kid, I couldn't tell the difference between a theme park and an amusement park. I thought the only thing, I just thought it was maybe it's a naming convention. I don't know what's the distinction. But, just hearing from you, there's a story behind it, there's a theme behind it. It's insightful, yeah.
And also it goes down to the capital investment. Usually there's a key difference. And then usually we also try to design based on like the capital investment. So it depends on the level of budget that they have. Like, is it a regional park? Is it a world-class park? And then we sort of use that as an anchor before we start designing. So a lot of times we have to think about like the different key attributes that we are trying to go for. Before we start designing, like what is the key intent? What is it that you're trying to get out of the whole project? I think as a designer, a lot of these things, apart from drawing itself, we have to a lot to think about and a lot to manage.
So you're saying there's also a strategic part to what you do, right? It's not just, here's the brief, design. There's a lot of thinking that is beyond the brief, right?
Yeah, a lot back and forth, and But we typically start off with what we call a blue sky stage. So people will just sit down in the room and do like workshops and brainstorming to sort of like gain alignment with all the different stakeholders. I think that is one of the most important aspect of what we do, and also one of the most challenging ones, because communication is key, but I think perception is even more important, because like even a perfectly communicated message might still be interpreted in different ways. So I think that's also part of the challenge when it comes to like.
Definitely. That's why you were mentioning that, hey, actually managing expectations is very important, right? Because your expectation, the client's expectation, and maybe even your colleagues' expectations are all going to be so different from one another, isn't it? Because everyone has a different vision, and which is why, like you said, getting alignment is so important, because everyone has to be laser focused on the, what is the final outcome, what's the final delivery. If everyone can get on board and are on the same page, then things would go so much smoother, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's also where the fun comes in, I guess, because like the theme park industry is so diverse, right? You get to like work with people from different backgrounds and so many different disciplines. I think in Disney Imagineering alone, they have like more than 140 different professions. I read it somewhere. I didn't really work for Disney, but I'm kind of like a fan. So I had to visit their parks whenever I can.
I love how they brand themselves as well, right? Because they call themselves Imagineers. So they are Imagineering engineers, which is really, really cool. So when you land a project, where do you start? What do you manage when you get a brief from a client? Say, hey, we got this potential pitch that we're going to get from XXXYZ, client, right? And it's worth this much. Where does this managing expectation process begin for you?
Okay, when it comes, I think you mentioned something about the budget, right? Yeah, so usually we start off with depending on the project, sometimes you get to talk to the clients directly. Sometimes you have to work with project managers or producers. So it really depends on the situation. So but usually we'll try to get as much information as we can, be it from the producers or sometimes they already have the feasibility studies done up in document, and we'll try to go through the documents to see if there's anything that we can extrapolate to provide an anchor for before we proceed.
Okay.
That's usually how we start.
So if a client has very big...
Also,
yes. Please, yeah.
It's on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So you talked about budget. We talked a little bit about feasibility studies and how you extrapolate information out of them. And then you're talking about working on a case-by-case basis, yeah?
Yeah, because for our company, we don't just also experiential museums, exhibitions, or even like brand activations and events. So like that's where the budget aspect of it comes in. Like for example, like for seasonal event, you don't really have the budget to have like more intricate like narrative or even like animatronics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for a major like world class as an IP tied to it, we tend to put the lead time is usually longer, so we get to spend more time, and also there will be more stakeholders, and that's where the intricacies come
in. Because there's more at stake, right? When you have a bigger project.
Yeah, and also more stakeholders. Like when there's IP involved, you have to go through clients or the developers, and you also have to go through like approvers from the licensor. Yeah, so you have to have a lot of rounds of revisions. That's usually the norm.
Right. So I got a one
IP related.
I see. So one thought that comes to my mind is this. So if you have a client that has a pretty small budget, but they have very big ambition, how do you tell them that, hey, how do you manage their expectations?
Oh, I'll just leave that to the project manager.
Or based on what you observe, how does your project manager actually manages that?
I think communication. Yeah, usually we will try to list down like what they are looking for, and then after a few rounds of like workshops, we will talk to like vendors and stuff to get quotations, and then we'll do like a BEQ. So we quantify whatever that's needed, and that's really not my job, but that's usually the process. So we try to quantify every single thing and try to see how to proceed when before the fabrication comes, the implementation part.
So when you say workshops, what exactly happens in those workshops that you run with them?
It's basically meetings. So we will try to like have discussions, and we will like do like whiteboard discussions and stuff. And then we try to throw ideas around, brainstorm.
And that process helps you guys to help the client to quantify what they want, right? Based on the outcomes that they want to get, right?
At that stage, it's mostly just about like I was saying before, just gaining alignment and try to see sometimes we also have to propose like what the content for them. Sometimes there's a clear anchor. So but oftentimes there is not. So there's the part where we have to discuss to see what they are looking for.
Okay.
Like sometimes we might suggest maybe you can use this IP depending on like the market demand, because different IPs have different coverage in different countries and different traction. So you don't want to like pick something that's not popular. We have to think about demographics and target audience that we are going for. Like you don't want to do like a very creepy like horror kind of thing for something that's targeted at really young children. So
So in that sense, you are kind of like yes, you're strategizing with the client.
Yeah, it's mostly about targeting and strategizing.
Yeah. Because once you have a clear vision, then that's when things are easier to quantify, things are easier to implement, right?
Yeah, but the quantification part is at a later stage when things started to be clearer. Like after most concept design stage. Usually we break it down into different concept stages. So like we have project discovery, and then we have like concept design, schematic designs, detailed designs, and then we have like shop drawings and all that. Yeah. So it depends on the project, and sometimes our scope might be smaller or might be bigger depending on like our partners as well. So sometimes, like for example, sometimes we just do the concept, and another company will do the schematic drawings, or they will do the shop drawings. So it really depends.
So your workshops also help with the scoping as well, right, of the project? From what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and then we try to come out with like a brief or a contract based on what was discussed. But that's also not my part. So mostly the project manager will the business development team. Yeah, but occasionally we get to have our inputs.
Got it. So like what I'm hearing from you is just getting clear of what's the direction that the client wants to take, and strategizing with them to say, hey, maybe this may work better with your project, and then eventually scoping things up helps to kind of like formulate out their expectations of what the project can look like, right? So that's like kind of one big chunk of the work done, right? When it comes to managing expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So just so everyone is on the same page. Yeah, because oftentimes the clients, they might not know nothing about the entertainment design or even like the IPs that we propose. So there's sometimes we get opportunity to have the IP licenses sitting with us, sometimes not. So our part is just to communicate and explain to them what, to give like a rationale behind our choice. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Any cool stories that happen when you in one of these workshops that you run, or one of these workshops that you attended with your clients that actually help them to like get the aha moment, this is exactly what we want. Oh, we kind of previously we didn't know where we were going, but now after this session we are kind of aligned and we roughly know what to expect for the project?
Interesting. Okay, there was this once I was doing this like workshop in Indonesia. So they put us in a nice villa, which was nice. And with our own butler. Yeah, like a 2-story villa, and then we have our own butler. And that was interesting because to me what's satisfying is when your ideas are being validated. So especially when I'm a nerd, so sometimes I propose like nerd stuff, like or different like pop culture references, and then when the client gets in, they're like, oh, I know that. That's pretty reassuring, and that's usually you need to pick up on all these visual cues and body language to see like how receptive they are when it comes before making all these different decisions. Yeah, so I think it's also you have to be conscious of that.
So what happened to the client in Indonesia that you mentioned?
Yeah, it went pretty well, the workshop. So we have like a 2-day or 3-day workshop back then. And but that was a while back.
Right. So that helped them to like get the aha moment, like, okay, previously I was not sure, but now I kind of have an idea of how things are going, and you guys have to shape and scope the project, right?
Yeah, but that's like in an ideal world. Oftentimes there will still be a lot of revisions after that, but it's a starting point. Like we have to still go through like rounds and rounds of revision, because words are words, right? We can't really it can be interpreted in like so many different ways. Like it's usually until like further down the debate where they can see like, oh, okay, so this is what you are trying to propose, and then that's where the real work comes in, I guess.
Okay.
It can be enduring at times, but it also rewarding when everything comes together. Especially when you see your project being built. I think that's where,
Yeah, because you guys put in so many hours and so many weeks of work.
I guess.
Yeah, and having
after all the blood and sweat and tears.
Exactly, right? Because that's when you can see like, finally all that struggle, all that effort being put in is worth it, because people are enjoying the experience that you guys have envisioned. So do you have any experience with managing expectations for your clients? Like, not clients, sorry, colleagues. Like when your colleagues have different vision from you, how do you get alignment with them?
Alignment with your colleagues, right?
Yeah, with your colleagues. Yeah. How do you align with your colleagues?
Oh yeah, like I was chatting with Dom like before this. I was saying that usually I try to break it down into 3 different components. So when it comes to expectation, there's like personal expectations, there's like project expectations, and there's client expectations, right? So when it comes to like managing expectations with colleagues, I think we have to respect the hierarchy when it comes to doing group work, and the camaraderie with your colleagues, I think, is very important. Like oftentimes, like I think a project will fall apart if there's too much in this room, because like everyone will tend to think that they have the best solution. That's actually lead to nowhere. I personally feel. Yeah. So sometimes we have to do our part to whatever but we also have to detach ourselves from what was being chosen or what was being chosen by the director or whoever is in charge, because ultimately he has to be accountable for the decision, and we have to respect that hierarchy.
So yeah, you're saying about respecting the hierarchies of your co-workers, right? What is it like to actually enroll a colleague into your vision? Do you have any tips to because if you believe that your vision holds true for the project and is the one that will benefit the project the most, how do you get others to come on board and say, hey, this is the best idea and I think this will work best, without putting without any ego and whatnot? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think first thing first, you have to detach yourself from the project and whatever that's been chosen, because oftentimes what we think might be best might not be the best. You will only be validated when it goes to the client. So oftentimes, opinions are just opinions when it's just not being validated, I feel. So we always propose what we feel is right, but ultimately, before it goes to the client, it's just a proposal. And so you have to learn to detach yourself from the project, I think. And just think about it from the angle whereby you're just doing it for the project. And like you say, try not to be egoistic about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when let's say you have how do you manage the cohesiveness of a team, so that everyone puts aside their ego and works for the best of the project? Is there something that has worked for your team?
That's a tricky question because I'm constantly trying to work on it. That goes down to interpersonal skills. I feel like so apart from work, you have to try and keep a healthy relationship with your co-workers. I think that's also quite important. Yeah. And because there's oftentimes there will be heated debates during meeting with clients or your co-workers, because they have they have differing views, right? Which is a common thing, and it's actually important to have that because it shows that they're actually into the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good sign, but also it's about, I think, not taking it personally, even if you are receiving I think less than pleasant feedbacks, I guess.
So what you're saying is essentially just be a professional, don't take anything personally, don't take anything too emotionally. It's just work. It's nothing personal. Yeah.
Right, and just try to be tactful when you are giving critiques and stuff, because we tend to think we have the best ideas, but more often than not, that's not usually the case, because because different stakeholders have different point of view and they have different priorities, and I think it's about just communicating what we want and sort of try to gain as much feedback as we can throughout the process.
So getting feedback, getting the input from client, and being professional about things helps you to build a cohesive team.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Oh, I think now it's working much better after I switch off the Instagram live. Is that okay if we just do the Zoom?
Yeah, that's fine. I turned it off as well. So maybe that may be the thing that's
because yesterday the dry run was better.
Yeah, without which is kind of strange, but it doesn't matter. It is what it is. Technology is.
I think it's my maybe I haven't been my bills or something.
No worries. Here we are. So what do you like most about your projects so far?
I think what I like the most about my work is the range of projects that we get to do. So far we've done some work for aquariums, and you get to speak to marine biologists, and get to go to the back of house to see how all this operation works. And because yeah, and I also like the diversity and the dynamics in our company because you get to work with architects, interior designers, basically different people from different backgrounds and disciplines. And to me, that's very interesting because like I was just telling you that like as millennials, I think if I'm still considered one, I think I have a very attention span. So to me it's nice to be able to like get my feet wet in different areas. So sometimes I get to do like storyboarding, sometimes I get to do like maybe a little bit of master planning, or like sometimes I get to do a bit of like key art and stuff like that. I think to me it's pretty fun. Yeah. And I'm still learning every day. So I think that is also what I really enjoy about my work.
Okay. Cool. So Han Kwang has some questions. What's the most interesting project you have worked on so far?
That's a tricky one because I think each of them, to me, they're all interesting. But I think last year we get to do a Halloween project. That was the first for me. So that was based on a Korean horror movie. So it's really interesting. Yeah, and that's the only horror maze that I've done so far. So that struck an impression. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, but it was only a seasonal event, so it only lasted for a few months. But it was so there are like also virtual reality components in the whole attraction. So there's like different pockets of space where you can do different activities. I didn't really get to go on site, but my colleagues showed me some pictures, and it's nice to see your some of your ideas get translated into a physical space. And then you see all this stuff.
Definitely. That's when the idea becomes real and it becomes something tangible that you can touch, feel, and experience. And seeing people go through that,
Yeah, I think like the different aspect of theme park design is that you get to have like think about the different sensory inputs. So it's not just about visual. There's also like sense of touch and sense of smell and stuff like that. Yeah, more tactile, and there's also some other things you can think about when designing.
Gotcha. So what are the more challenging tasks that you had to handle and overcome in your entire career so far?
For me, it's about challenging tasks. I think it's about communication. Yeah. I think working with people is the most challenging part. The drawing part, yes, actually. Yeah, because you just have to like you just don't have to interact with people. You just like just get in your zone, put on your headphones, and just do your thing, right? But I think like oftentimes for me, because I'm not very eloquent, I'm not very outspoken, so to me communication can be rather challenging at times. So,
communication is challenging. Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you overcome it? Because if communication it's a hurdle for you, and obviously you have overcome it, what are some of your ways to overcome it?
I'm still working on it. I'll let you know maybe like in a few months' time. Okay, just aside, I think okay. I think one of I guess I just try not to do things that you'll regret later. Try not to say like just try to think through it in your head, like rinse and repeat before you say something you regret.
Right.
And also, like I was saying before, just try to be tactful and respect each other's profession. Yeah, because I think that is one of the key challenges, like when you are working with people from different disciplines, because you guys have different like a frame of mind, you have different terminologies, and that's where a lot of miscommunication comes in. So that is a challenging part, I think. So you have to sort of synthesize that and come up with a cohesive work culture, I guess, or like even when you're dealing with clients. So.
I'm just curious though, like, I've also worked on a theme attraction before, and have you ever had to come up with like a be like a translator of like, oh, what this executive is saying, and you have to explain it to your team. Like, oh, actually, what this executive says when he means, let's say, a team experience can be translated into a different word used by a team. Have you ever done like translation between two different departments before?
Not so much. Usually, that's the role of the directors and or the producers or project managers. But I've done like real translation work. I mean, not just like interpreting the brief. I've done like translation like from like Chinese translation for certain projects. Yeah, so that is one of the challenging part. Yeah, that's why to me communication is really tricky because like for us as Singaporeans, we usually like converse in like Singlish or English, right? And so a lot of the technical terms we are not really so well versed in. So like there was this once I was actually like sent overseas for like a presentation. Like I was only notified like a few days before flying. Yeah, so it was really in it, and I'm not from an architectural background, so a lot of the terms, like even English, you are not too sure what it means, but you have to translate on the spot on the fly in the room like with 30, 40 people. So that was one of the one of the most memorable experience I had. Yeah, sitting in a room with like people like in suits and all this, and like all the like maybe like the developers or the governors, they are like sitting in front, and then they have their subordinates sitting behind taking notes.
So it's kind of a high stakes kind of meeting because all the important people are there, right?
Yeah, that was for a competition. So there were also like other companies that were there. So yeah, it's pretty challenging, but I'm glad we got the project despite my broken Chinese.
Yeah, see? So if you have a good idea, it doesn't matter, right? Because the ideas will translate well,
Yeah. That's why art, the binding force, it goes beyond cultural boundaries.
It's true. I totally agree with that. I mean, I've worked on a project as well where, the architects can't really communicate well with the vendors over email. And all it takes is for someone like me to visualize the experience. Then everyone goes, okay, I see what you're talking about. That's where the art really just aligns everyone to the vision, the grand vision of the project.
Exactly. That's why words can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So I think that's an aspect of what we do is to like translate that into like visuals that can really help to sell the project.
Correct. I think what we do as artists in your industry would really be to align people together and say, hey, this is how it can look like. This is what people should experience, what they should be feeling when they see this attraction and whatnot. Are you okay with that? If you're okay, that good. Let's work towards building this. That's all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the costing, whatever. Let the project manager handle it. Let the finance team deal with it. But this is the experience we are committed to building. If we need to shrink it, let's find ways to cut corners. If you got additional budget, okay, let's make it full blown.
Right. Oh yeah, that's also one of the things that I learned from one of my mentors. He was he is like a huge Disney fanatic, so he always tried to like impart on me like different ideologies when it comes to like I shouldn't say cut corners, but it's about strategically like placing elements so we can actually utilize the real estate and the budget, so we can put the budget on where it's important. So it's kind of like doing like art as well. Like you tend to have like focal point, so that's where you put all your focus on and where you put all the details and stuff.
So it's really optimizing the resources that you have to create the best possible effect in that attraction. Yeah.
So that's also the difference between like a good master plan and a not so good one. Because you have you gotta optimize and see where's the best place to place your money.
So optimization is a good management strategy when it comes to handling expectations.
Yeah. It's also usually when there's money numbers involved or like case studies involved, it's easier to like persuade or convince like clients or colleagues.
Right. because there's something physical to say, hey, if this is what's been done before, we have a track record, and it's important to have that. Okay, we have another question from Xuan. Our question from Xuan, not another one. Darius, why do you prefer working as a concept artist in the theme park industry over the a games industry, over the video games industry?
Why do I prefer? No, actually, I like both mediums. I think, in fact, I think they are really, really similar. There's this designer that I really like as well. It's called Don Carson. He's a theme park designer, but he's also designs for games. So I think they are just they are very similar. And in fact, before I started out in team entertainment, I was actually working in a games company, mobile games company startup for a bit. It was for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Yeah. So I think they are both great mediums, especially for like visual artists, because you get to tell different stories and in different formats, I think. But they do have their differences when it comes to like budget. For like a physical theme park space, usually we go through this process called value engineering, which is we think about how we can like optimize the materials and stuff, so we can or maybe like cut down on some of the not so necessary stuff, so we can save some cost. So I think that's the key difference, because it has to be buildable. Yeah. So there's more concerns when it comes to like structural integrity and stuff, but that's not really my scope. That's usually done by the structural engineers. Yeah. For my part, it's mostly just to come out with the thematic concepts and the theatricality of it. Yeah.
Are there any differences when it comes to designing for the video game industry versus, say, the theme industry, the theme attractions industry?
I think there are some fundamental difference, but for me, I haven't really gotten the chance to work on like a AAA game. So for me, back then the game that I work on is actually a 2D sprite game. So that's pretty different from visualizing like a 3-dimensional space, because I was like working with like isometric views and stuff. So that's based on my personal experience. But I think in terms of like the work process is not that different, apart from like having to think about like safety and stuff like that. Yeah, I think safety is also another considerations when we are designing, because you don't want to have things that are like that can like cause people to fall down and stuff like that. Yeah.
So would you say there are more considerations that need to be thought of and cleared when you're designing for a theme attraction?
Yeah, there are different considerations. I wouldn't say more. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure games has their own challenges as well. Yeah, like I have some friends in the games industry, and I think they have to work with like level designers and stuff. And I'm sure there's like a lot of technical challenges when it comes to like coming out with a good game.
Gotcha. How did you get into this industry?
Oh, it was
they're virtually like there's only like 1 or 2 theme parks in Singapore. How do you get into it?
Yeah, I will consider my journey into theme park an accidental one, because yeah, totally accidental. Yeah, for me, because I didn't actually know that there's such an industry that's present in Singapore. So for me, I was attending this workshop that was hosted by Design Singapore Council. So so I attended this class by this industry veteran from Hollywood called Nick Pugh. So he designed stuff for like Star Wars. I think he also worked on the latest Star Wars film. So that's when I met a few of my classmates who were actually doing this. So they sort of referred to their company, and that's how I sort of got my foot in the door.
So it's through an event, then you met the right people, and then they eventually kind of recruited you, right?
Yeah, I think like that's also a huge part of like networking. I think it's really important as artists. Even though a lot of us can be introverts, but I mean it's still something that we need to learn to overcome. Or try to at least get better at. Yeah. But of course, there's also different priorities. So I think as an artist, like I was talking about personal expectations, right? I think it's also about like discovering what you are gearing towards. I think that's also very important. Like because like I think expectations change throughout the years. You have different priorities when you are working with different people. As you're going through all these different stages, you tend to like want different things in your life. So like for me now, like I tend to take things a little bit more easier because my age isn't getting any younger. So health taking a toll on me, so I get tired more easily. So I try to like take it easy compared to before. And yeah, stay healthy, guys.
Thank you for sharing, how to manage expectations, which is, I think it's very valuable. What you shared earlier about, having discussions with clients, scoping work, right? And even finding the best ways to optimize, with the available resources, helps to actually ground the client and to manage their expectations, right? Manage what they can envision. And like what you said, even when you're working with colleagues, managing your individual self with regards to your own temperament and your own detachment from the work, right? It helps you to stay focused on what's needed for the project.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really helpful. So thank you for sharing that. And for the rest of you guys, yes, you're saying, yeah.
I always think from the point of view of the project. Yeah. Instead of putting yourself before the project. I think that's key. Yeah.
Well said, like a pro.
Yeah, it's nothing personal. It's just for the project. Yeah.